Welcome to the Story Lab. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. I couldn't help but notice the delicious aroma of Fiona's famous lasagna wafting through our cozy dining room. It was one of those familiar scents that always brought a sense of comfort and warmth to our home. Little did I know that the evening ahead would shatter the very foundation of our seemingly perfect life together. "Garrett, I need to tell you something," Fiona said, her voice wavering slightly. I looked up from my plate, meeting her gaze. There was an unfamiliar distance in her eyes that sent a chill down my spine. "What is it, honey?" I asked, trying to mask my growing concern. Fiona took a deep breath, her hands fidgeting nervously on the table. "I am attracted to women now. I think it's best if we end this marriage." The words hit me like a ton of bricks, knocking the air out of my lungs. I searched her face for any sign that this was some cruel joke, but the seriousness in her expression told me otherwise. "What do you mean?" I managed to croak out, my mind spinning with a million questions. "I'm sorry, Garrett," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I've been struggling with these feelings for a while now, and I can't ignore them any longer." I felt like the ground beneath me was crumbling. The woman I had loved and cherished for over a decade was now a stranger to me. Reluctantly, I agreed to the divorce, my heart shattering into a million pieces. Months passed, and I found myself in a small downtown apartment, trying to piece my life back together. The sting of Fiona's betrayal was still fresh, but I was determined to move forward, one day at a time. It was during one of my weekly catch-up sessions with my longtime friend and fellow restaurateur, Marcus, that the truth came spilling out. "Garrett, I have something to tell you," Marcus said, his expression grave. "Fiona has moved in with her ex-boyfriend, Paul." I felt the air leave my lungs once again, as if someone had punched me in the gut. "What?" I gasped, my mind racing. "But she said she was attracted to women. That's why she wanted the divorce." Marcus shook his head solemnly. "I'm sorry, buddy. It seems she lied to you." Rage and disbelief coursed through my veins. I confronted Fiona, demanding answers. "You lied to me, Fiona." I spat, my hands trembling. "You said you were attracted to women." She met my gaze unflinchingly, her eyes devoid of any remorse. "I lied just to get rid of you, Garrett. It was the only way." Her words cut deeper than any knife, and I realized then that the woman I had once loved was nothing more than a master manipulator. In the sanctuary of my office at one of my restaurants, I paced back and forth, fuming with anger and hurt. Marcus sat across from me, his expression one of concern and support. "She used me, Marcus." I seethed, slamming my fist on the desk. "She just wanted to learn how to run a business, and then she tossed me aside like garbage." Marcus nodded grimly, his loyalty never wavering. "What are you going to do about it?" I felt a surge of determination course through me, pushing aside the pain and heartbreak. "I'm going to make her pay," I said, my voice low and resolute. "She thinks she can just waltz in and take everything I've worked so hard for? Not a chance." Marcus leaned forward, his eyes alight with a fiery determination that matched my own. "Whatever you need, Garrett, I'm with you. We'll take her down together." And so, our plan for revenge was set in motion, fueled by my burning desire for justice and Marcus's unwavering friendship. Fiona had made a grave mistake in underestimating me, and she would soon learn the true cost of her betrayal. The news of Fiona and Paul's plans to open their own restaurant ignited a firestorm of rage within me. I couldn't bear the thought of them capitalizing on the skills and knowledge I had imparted to Fiona during our marriage. "Marcus, we need to strike while the iron is hot," I said, pacing around my office like a caged lion. "I won't let them get away with this." Marcus nodded, his brow furrowed with determination. "What do you have in mind?" A devious plan began to take shape in my mind. I knew that the success of any restaurant hinged on the quality of its staff, particularly the head chef. If we could sabotage from within, we could bring Fiona and Paul's establishment crumbling down before it even had a chance to take off. "Listen, I know the head chef at their new place, Lisa," I said, a sly grin spreading across my face. "Let's pay her a visit." A few days later, we found ourselves seated across from Lisa in a dimly lit cafe. Her eyes widened as I laid out my proposition. I'll double your pay and offer you a prime position at one of my top restaurants if you help us sabotage Fiona and Paul's place, I said, my voice low and steady. Lisa's gaze darted between Marcus and me, uncertainty flickering across her features. What do you want me to do? Anything you can to undermine the quality of their food and service, I replied, leaning forward. Hire incompetent staff, mess with recipes, you name it. After a moment's hesitation, Lisa nodded, her eyes alight with greed. Consider it done. In the weeks that followed, Fiona and Paul's restaurant, aptly named La Belle Cuisine, opened to great fanfare and anticipation. But beneath the veneer of success, the seeds of sabotage had been sown. I have to hand it to you, Garrett, Marcus said one evening as we sat in my office, clinking our glasses of scotch together. Your plan is working like a charm. I couldn't help but smirk as I recalled the scathing reviews that had been pouring in, courtesy of a few well-placed food critics I'd called in favors from. Tales of undercooked meat, bland sauces, and abysmal service painted a picture of a restaurant in rapid decline. It's only the beginning, my friend, I said, taking a sip of my drink. Once the word spreads, their customer base will dry up faster than a puddle in the desert sun. And sure enough, as the weeks wore on, the once bustling dining room at La Belle Cuisine grew increasingly sparse. Fiona and Paul's faces grew more haggard with each passing day, their dreams of culinary success crumbling before their very eyes. With the restaurant hemorrhaging customers and revenue, it was only a matter of time before the financial strain became too much for Fiona and Paul to bear. They're burning through their savings like wildfire, Marcus reported one afternoon, sliding a stack of financial documents across my desk. I pored over the numbers, a sense of grim satisfaction washing over me. Good. Let them feel the weight of their betrayal. But I wasn't content to let their downfall play out organically. No, I wanted to twist the knife deeper, to make them suffer as they had made me suffer. Marcus, I need you to do something for me, I said, leaning back in my chair. Get in touch with the health department and tip them off about some violations at Fiona's restaurant. Marcus raised an eyebrow, but he knew better than to question my motives. Consider it done. Within days, the health inspectors had descended upon La Belle Cuisine, like a swarm of locusts, citing numerous infractions and ultimately shuttering the establishment indefinitely. As I watched Fiona and Paul emerge from their failed venture, their faces etched with despair, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. They had brought this upon themselves, and now they would face the consequences of their actions. It was a crisp autumn evening when my doorbell rang, shattering the peaceful silence of my apartment. I wasn't expecting any visitors, so the sound immediately put me on edge. As I approached the door, I peered through the peephole, only to be met with the familiar face that had once brought me so much joy, and now, only pain. Fiona, I muttered under my breath, steeling myself before unlocking the door. She stood before me, a mere shadow of her former self. Her eyes were sunken, her hair disheveled, and her once radiant complexion had dulled to a sickly pallor. Garrett, she choked out, her voice trembling. Please, I need to talk to you. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside, allowing her to enter. She shuffled in, her shoulders slumped with defeat. What do you want, Fiona? I asked, my tone laced with a bitterness I couldn't contain. She turned to face me, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. I understand now, Garrett. We've lost everything. Paul has left, and I have nothing. I couldn't help but scoff at her words. It's your fault for messing with me, I spat, relishing in her misery. You brought this upon yourself? Fiona nodded, her head hanging low. I know, she whispered. I was blinded by greed and ambition, and I made the biggest mistake of my life. As much as I wanted to revel in her suffering, a part of me couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity. This broken woman before me was hardly recognizable as the manipulative schemer who had shattered my heart. Please, Garrett, she implored, her eyes locked onto mine. I'm begging you for mercy. I held her gaze, my jaw clenched tight. In that moment, I knew I held the power to grant her forgiveness or to deliver the final, crushing blow. Days later, I found myself standing outside the now-shuttered doors of La Belle Cuisine, the epicenter of Fiona and Paul's shattered dreams. Marcus stood by my side, his unwavering loyalty a constant source of strength. "Are you sure about this, Garrett?" he asked, eyeing the dilapidated building with a hint of skepticism. I nodded, my resolve unwavering. "Absolutely. This is the only way to truly achieve closure." As if on cue, Fiona emerged from the shadows, her expression weary and defeated. She approached us cautiously, her eyes darting between Marcus and me. "Garrett," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You wanted to see me?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself for the confrontation ahead. "Fiona, I'm willing to make you an offer." Her brows knitted together, a flicker of hope dancing across her features. "What kind of offer?" "I'll buy this property from you," I stated, gesturing towards the crumbling edifice of her failed restaurant. "At a heavily discounted price, of course." Fiona's eyes widened, and for a moment, she seemed torn between the desire to cling to her dreams and the harsh reality of her circumstances. She started, her voice faltering. "I don't have a choice, do I?" I shook my head, my expression resolute. "No, you don't." With a heavy sigh, Fiona nodded, sealing her fate and surrendering the last remnants of her ambition to me. Months later, the once dilapidated building had been transformed into a bustling pizzeria, the air filled with the enticing aroma of freshly baked pies and the sounds of laughter and conversation. Garrett's Pizzeria. The name emblazoned above the entrance was a testament to my triumph, a symbol of my unwavering perseverance in the face of adversity. "Can you believe it, Marcus?" I said, clapping my friend on the shoulder as we surveyed the thriving establishment. "We're back on top." Marcus grinned, his eyes shining with pride. "You did it, my friend. You took her down and rose from the ashes like a phoenix." As I scanned the dining room, taking in the smiling faces of satisfied customers and the energetic buzz of my loyal staff, I couldn't help but feel a sense of profound satisfaction. Not only had I recovered the financial losses inflicted by Fiona's betrayal, but I had also achieved a sense of justice, a bittersweet victory forged from the ashes of her ambition. "You know, Marcus," I mused, my voice tinged with a newfound sense of wisdom. "Throughout this entire ordeal, I've learned the true value of loyalty and integrity, both in business and in life." Marcus nodded sagely, his gaze understanding. "And that's what sets you apart, Garrett. You may have been driven by revenge, but in the end, you emerged as the better man." As I watched the pizzeria thrive, bustling with energy and promise, I knew that this chapter of my life had finally drawn to a close. The wounds inflicted by Fiona's betrayal would never fully heal, but I had found a way to channel that pain into something remarkably positive, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. With a contented smile, I turned to Marcus, clinking our glasses together in a silent toast to the future, a future brimming with endless possibilities and the promise of sweeter days ahead. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.